that we're ready to hone in on this race issue, where, like I said, we have a unique opportunity, I think, because of the stage of human history that we're in, to really make a significant impact. I think actually the impact that we can have is incalculable at this very moment because of the advancement of technology, the way that we're currently communicating, the time pressure for all the cataclysms that are headed our way. I think that is creating kind of a perfect storm, if you will, that will allow us to get more individuals to put themselves to a choice of whether they want to engage in this process of transforming our racial environment. I think that a lot of people are not even at the point where they've asked themselves, or they've been ignoring, right? Or trying to turn away from doing that work. Because, like you said, and like we've been talking about, it's hard work. It's hard work on the individual level, it's hard work at the group level. And it's emotional, like you said. So I think that we can bring more and more people in to the fold in terms of welcoming them to explore themselves, which is really what this is all about. It's about self-reflection. It's about education and learning more about how you've been thinking about this issue, how you've been talking about the issue, and unraveling from that the thoughts that reinforce this system of racism that exists. So I'm right there with you. I think that all I personally can do is show people I can show people the artificial lines that have been drawn and how they are unproductive and damaging to us as human beings, not as one race or another. It's damaging to every single human. And I think that can be easily displayed. I've done it many times. I've seen the impact it can have. It shocks people because a lot of people don't really follow the path of thinking about all the possible consequences of racism because it's an extensive universe. And so it opens up their mind to that universe. And then while it can lead some people, I'll admit, to a doom and gloom type philosophy, I think a lot of people, it opens up a whole new world for them to explore. And like I said, it gives them this kind of voracious hunger to learn more and to build relationships with people and to seek people outside of their own experience. Because unfortunately, these artificial lines have created differing experiences for people, despite the fact that we're all living in an environment affected by racism, and we all are affected by racism.
Thread that I noticed between the little bit of biography that you just shared with me, which I greatly appreciate, is the fact that I also wasn't raised in a house of Black pride and all of that. I'm adopted. My adopted father is a racialized white man, and my adopted mother is, I guess people would say she's Latina. I guess she's from Panama. She was an immigrant from Panama. And then they adopted me and a brother through adoption. And my adopted brother was a racialized Black boy at the time, obviously. And so I grew up in what people would ostensibly consider to be a mixed racial house. One of my
That's an incredibly unique circumstance aside from race.
It is. It was, and unfortunately, this is the sort of irony of my life. So my biological parents were unfit parents. So New York State took me away from them after I was born and put me in foster care. And then by the time I was 1, my adoptive family adopted me, but then my adopted mother severely abused me. And obviously that led to an extensive amount of neglect. And my entire life, I turned to reading and literature in particular as a sort of escape. I also turned to music and art and sports, which is why I'm very passionate about all of those things now. And I was fortunate enough that although I grew up in a trailer park, so we were poor by most people's definitions, the trailer park was right next to a more affluent community. And so I was in that school district. So I went to an okay, school. It wasn't exceptional by any means, but it gave me a good education. And I had access to any book I wanted through the public library and the library at my school. So I read voraciously. And if my adoptive mother really wanted to hurt me, she could rip apart one of my books, which she often did. And it was because I grew up in that household and because I turned to school as my only safe haven that I became so passionate about being this sort of perfectionist. I was getting straight A's and I wasn't happy if I wasn't getting straight A's. And I was being a perfect singer and a perfect flutist. I played the flute and I was being the best I could at track and best I could in cheerleading and cross country and any sport I threw myself into, all because I thought I would earn my adoptive parents' love by the more perfect I was. And so I threw myself into academics and extracurriculars because I was thinking, the naivety of a child, I was thinking that was going to earn the love that I should have been given without question. And it's probably safe for anyone listening who doesn't know me to assume that that strategy didn't work. But the thing that it did do was create a fire in me to always work hard and to believe in the transformative power of education. So that when I became a high school dropout at 17, because I left that house, I chose homelessness and sleeping on park benches over staying in that house. And because I was homeless, I was staying in different parts, different cities and stuff close to my hometown, but that gave me more access to places to sleep and stay. I ended up having to drop out of high school, and I was an honor student. I was taking 2 college courses, economics and English, and I was a varsity athlete. I was a chamber singer. Should have been the best year of my life, but I was homeless. And the thing that kept me motivated instead of wallowing in my own admitted depression and all of the feels that you might expect a child to have was because I had access to literature. I just believed in the bigness of the world, and I just believed that there was more to life than what I was living and what I was being shown. And I took that with me into the next year where I did finish high school, and into the next 4 years where I graduated from undergrad to top of my class. I was a chosen student commencement speaker, did the advanced honors thesis, as I said, all of that. I like my whole motivating force, and part of what I saw about myself and what I felt about myself was a deep recognition of my own power, even though I had been faced with so much powerlessness. And I felt like the literature was what gave that to me. So when I started viewing myself with this fierce pride in what I thought was race, but what I came to realize was never race, it was never a racial pride. And this is where I think people have misconceptions. It was never actually a racial pride. It was a pride in how I participate in different cultures, in American culture, broadly speaking. It was a pride in the characteristics and traits of myself that I attributed to other people who had fought against racism, who had fought against social injustice, who had fought against tremendous adversity, not dissimilar from what had been my whole life up until the point where my intellectual journey helped me transcend the thing, right? And that's what made it hard for me to let go of too, because I never thought in racializing myself, I never believed that, oh, all Black people are the same, or I never believed that there was a way to be Black or a way to act Black or talk white or anything. And I heard all of those things throughout my entire life, just as you did. And I experienced explicit racism, people calling me the N-word, a high schooler calling me pubic hair and assaulting me on the school bus, hocking a loogie in my hair when I got off the school bus, you name it, probably went through it too. Great times, my childhood, great times. But it's like the tenacity, the self-motivation, the self-determination, the inner power that I saw myself and the immense potential that I believed about myself, even when I didn't even. It's really weird to me to even articulate, because I saw these things about myself and I loved myself for these things, and I attached that to what I thought was race, and I became to disconnect that so that the things that I love about myself remain and are still there, and I still embrace them, and I still, elevate them and speak them, but I recognize it had nothing to do with my racialization or race. But it's paradoxical too, because when you're a child developing and you grow up through what and go through what I went through, you internalize the disdain that your parents have for you, right? So I didn't think I was a lovable person. I didn't think I was a worthy person. And despite the fact that I had tremendous love for humanity, tremendous love for humans, despite the fact that I believed fiercely in myself and my own abilities, that did nothing to reconcile the fact that I felt unlovable. I felt alone. I felt discarded. I felt all of these things. And the people that I hear talk about Black pride and yada, 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 it might seem nonsensical or even illogical. And you're not saying this, but I'm just saying for anyone listening who doesn't know what that is or where it comes from, I can say from my own experience that fierceness came from the sort of struggle that I myself had lived and overcome. And I saw something positive in the testimonies of people who overcame such adversity, overcame attempts to annihilate their very existence, just as I felt my adoptive mother had done to me. And that's what made race. That's what made Blackness. That's what made being Black such a positive thing for me and such a hard thing for me to let go. Because it took me a long time, even though I saw through the foolishness of it, I did see through it
But you had learned
very
to
early
kind of
on.
utilize it as a way of coping with your
Yeah.
situation.
And not even just coping, but like thriving. When I list all of on that's on my CV, you would never, no one ever guesses I've been through half of what I've been through in my life, because somehow people attribute success with not having to have gone through anything hard. It's so weird, our society. And so for me it was coping indeed, and it was also what helped me continue just to achieve the sort of excellence that most people would look at me and say, oh yeah, we all agree that she's achieved some tremendous things in her life. And when I started talking with people, the first conversation I had, the young lady Brittany King on American Shade, that's how she sees this category of Black. She sees it only through the positive framing of it. And therefore, it's hard to see how that framing of it, because it's connected to racialization and race ideology, is also carrying with it the racism that she's working against. And I find that to be a common experience and a common way that many people tend to think of the problem.